Hi there. In this short video, we're going to take a look at this concept called core competencies. Now, this is a concept that is very much connected with business strategy. And the idea of a core competence, there's a bit of a clue in the words. Core means something fundamental, and a competence means a skill or an ability. Well, in the business context, a core competence is taken to be something which is unique that a business has or can do, which enables it to compete effectively. So it's a strategic concept around business strengths. And the idea of core competencies was first suggested by two well-known business management theorists called Hamel and Prahalad. They both wrote a best-selling book which looked at the strategies and the competitive strengths of high-performing businesses back in the 1980s and 1990s. The book was called Competing for the Future, and what they said was that the key to competing in the future is for management teams to build and deploy and protect and defend what they called core competencies. Now, of course, this therefore links very closely with another important and very popular management or strategy tool called the SWOT analysis. So it's worth making a connection between core competencies and the S of SWOT analysis, strengths, which of course, if you remember from SWOT analysis, are the strengths and weaknesses are the internal factors, and strengths are the sources of competitive advantage. Now, the two professors said that there were four different ways in which a competence could be core to a business. It could arise from the collective learning or the expertise within the business. It could arise from the ability of a business to bring together a host of different skills and technologies to create something unique, and therefore to be able to deliver products and services that were in some ways or many ways far superior to what the competition could deliver. And I guess as a consequence of those, a core competence also enables a business to differentiate itself from the competition. We know from strategy, don't we, that differentiation, the ability to, from the customer point of view, to be clearly differentiated from all the other competitors in the market, whether that be on quality or service or whatever, that's a very important competitive strength. So some possible examples. What do we mean by core competencies? Well, let's just have a look at four different businesses and think what theirs might be. I think all of these are pretty valid examples of core competencies. I think IKEA in particular has this unique organizational culture based on thrift, the culture of thrift, low cost, low price, but also phenomenal design capabilities, the ability to be able to come up with designs that are in many ways unique. Very hard to compete and copy that. Apple, of course, will be on many people's lists of a business that has some very important competitive advantages, not the least being its almost obsessive focus on design, particularly built around the user and the simplicity of the user interface. But of course, what it's very cleverly done is integrated its software and its devices, in particular around the app ecosystem. So that's an example of bringing technology and skills together to create an advantage. What about a slice of pizza, guys? What about Domino's? A wonderful business. It's now described as an e-commerce business that happens to sell pizza because it's been so successful, partly as a result of investing so much in integrating all its systems to enable us to order a pizza from any kind of device, and the whole operational system enables that pizza to be delivered on time. But of course, it's also managed to integrate its systems around a very successful and profitable franchise model. And lastly, one of my favorites, Starbucks. And there's no doubt that Starbucks has some potentially significant core competencies when it comes to the coffee shop or coffee experience market, not the least being an ability to very carefully and successfully localize the product, the in-store environment to meet customer needs in different countries. Now, one of the questions you will need to think about when you're looking at a business, and if you're asked to say, well, is this a core competence of the business? What Prahalad and Hamel said is it needed to meet three conditions. So let's quickly look at those three conditions. So a core competence firstly needs to be able to provide consumer benefits, distinctive consumer benefits. Secondly, for it to be a core competence, it needs to be hard for competitors to imitate. So if it's something that's easy to imitate, that's unlikely to be a core competence. And thirdly, it needs to be something that can be leveraged widely to support many different products and enable the business to compete in different markets. Let's have a look at an example. We suggested that we thought IKEA could have some distinctive capabilities, these core competencies. Let's just check to see whether we think IKEA meets these three conditions. Well, I think on balance it probably does. Firstly, that phenomenal design expertise. Does that provide consumer benefits? Well, you only have to have a look at the number of people walking around IKEA stores on a weekend to suggest it absolutely does. How easy is it for competitors to imitate? Well, of course, lots of people have tried, but I can't think of a furniture or household chain, certainly not a global one, that's come anywhere near to being able to copy or imitate the success of IKEA. So yes, I would say that's not easy to imitate. And has it been used widely? Has this design capability been used widely to many different products and markets? Well, of course it has, hasn't it? Look around an IKEA store and just see how many of the household areas, household items, it's been able to use those design capabilities. So absolutely. So it looks like that whole design ethos is definitely a core competence of IKEA. What Prahalad and Hamel suggested businesses do from a strategic point of view is focus. In order to compete well, is to focus on core competencies, but also quite controversially to outsource activities which were non-core. And this has led to some criticisms of the core competence model. One of which is that, and of course this was a very widely used and supported concept, core competencies, particularly in the 90s and early 2000s. One of the criticisms is that many businesses took it too much to his word and started outsourcing almost every non-core activity, so-called overzealous outsourcing. And it's argued that in some cases this led to businesses losing competitiveness, particularly by losing some of the skills that the business had built up. Of course, another criticism is that as you look at core competencies, it's quite hard to find them which are genuinely unique to a business. In the same way that a competitive strength or competitive advantage is rarely completely unique to just one business in the market. And a third criticism is that the danger of just focusing on core competencies is that you become too complacent about what those are and forget to invest in other competencies that may become more important to the business in the future. That's been an overview of and an introduction to the concept of core competencies.